Great, so I'm going to be installing a new stereo into our 2008 Ford Escape. Now I have the hybrid version. I don't believe there's a difference between the hybrid and the four-cylinder or the six-cylinder version of this second generation Escape when it comes to the stock stereo. Now I think if you get the full trim package with the navigation and you have the hybrid, I think it ties into all your efficiency ratings, and if you're in EV mode and your miles per gallon and things like that. However, if you have one of those, this installation isn't going to help you too much because it's a different stereo than I have. So if you have the stock stereo for a 2008 Escape, just the base model, which isn't bad, but it's not the best, so this should help you out. So first things first, we have to disconnect the negative terminal on our battery, and so we can safely access all the power cables without zapping ourselves. Okay, here are our battery terminals. So we'll disconnect the negative to safely perform the extraction of the existing stereo and the installation of the new one. We should tuck it right out of there because you don't want it to accidentally, bend back into place and then make connection while you're working on wires and things like that. Okay, so with that done, we'll head inside the Escape and see, take a look at the existing dash and see what we're looking at. So this is my factory stereo. As you can see, it's pretty integrated. I should say it's quite integrated into the dash design. It's not one of those traditional 1 or 2 DIN stereo units that you can just pop in and pop a new one, pop out and pop a new one in. So that's why I had to buy a dash kit for it. You can see the color here is it's almost a silver. It's hard to tell, but it's a goldish silver. And they didn't have this color in the dash kits that I found. They had a black, and they had a very goldy gold, if that makes sense, and a gray that didn't match my interior either. So I went with the black just because there is some minor black trim already, so I think it would stick out the most. So yeah, now that we've taken a look at the dash, let's hop inside and we'll go over what we need to replace the stereo. Great. So things that we'll need for this installation and swap. Obviously the unit itself. This is the touchscreen unit I got off eBay. It's Android 4.4, 6.2 inch screen. It's DVD, navigation, anything that goes on Android. So navigation, radio. It's got a tuner in it. You can install apps just like on your Android tablet or your phone. So it's essentially a tablet in your stereo. So it's kind of nice. So we're going to install this, and again we have to remove these screws. Otherwise, we won't be able to put DVDs in the player. Everything else that comes with it, some brackets, the GPS antenna, all the cables for the back, and these are some troubleshooting tips. But it doesn't actually come with installation instructions, so I'm gonna have to struggle through that a little bit. Since we're doing it, I can show you the back too. There's a fuse there. This looks like a Wi-Fi antenna. You got your GPS antenna, hookup antenna, and then your ports for your other items there. So it's pretty straightforward. I mean, as far as stereos go, we'll see how that goes as we struggle through it. Next up, I have a stereo mounting dash kit. Again, I got this off eBay. Everything I got here was off of eBay. Oh, sorry, the stereo was about $300. This cost me about $50 shipped. It did come from the US. I'm in Canada. Took about a week and a half to get here, and it's just the trim for to replace the trim that comes with the factory stock. I actually think it goes like that, but your stereo will go here, and then your existing dials will go there. So they had it they had it in a silver that didn't quite match the silver of my Escape. So I'm just going to stick with this. The black, there's some black trim in the Escape, so I don't think it'll pop out too much. There was a silver and black, and I think it was a gold as well, but that didn't match at all. So I chose mine black. I also got a wiring harness or radio replacement interface, but essentially it makes it so when you take your stereo out, all the cords and wires, you can just plug in somehow. Again, I haven't looked at this yet, but we'll essentially have a clean plug-in straight into there, which I imagine will plug into here, and then have your hookups and all your wires properly marked and labeled for your new stereo. So I guess it comes with a bulletin, so I'll have to read that and see what it says. But yeah, so if you don't have a wiring harness, it's going to make your installation much more work, because you're going to have to splice wires and find the right wires. So these help a lot. Again, I've never done something to this degree before, so we're going to be learning together on this. And I got this off of eBay as well for about $100 shipped. It was $75 or $80 plus another $15 or $20, so it was $90 or $100 Canadian to get it shipped to me from the US to Canada. I also went online and found some instructions, some installation instructions on how to remove and install new stereos, and how to take apart the dash kit, take apart the existing dash so you can install the new kit and the new set. I would suggest that if you're printing these off, find a way to poster print so you can do 2 pages on each side, and you'll save a lot of paper, because you're only going to use it once, you're going to toss it, so save you some ink and some paper. And then I also picked up these dash installation tools. From what I read, these are really helpful. I mean, you can use your butter knife and some screwdrivers, and you can wrap them in electrical tape or something, and it protects from jabbing and cutting your leather. But these apparently are really nice to have. So these were only about $8 shipped, and they came from, again, within Canada. I'm sure you can, if you're in the States, you can find them in the States as well. They're super cheap, and from what I hear, very helpful. So I'm gonna be using these for the first time as well today. So I'm excited about that. And as an option, the stereo itself comes with video cables. From what I believe, one from the front and one from the back for a reverse camera, and one for a dash cam. But I don't have them; they haven't arrived from yet. Those are actually coming from China. Those cost me about $30 total. But I'm going to install it now, and I'm going to use existing, because it's just composite or RCA video cables. So I'm just going to use some ones that I've hanging around the house and feed them under the dash, and just use these couplers on the end. So when they do arrive, I can just plug in the video. I don't have to take the whole dash apart again. I can just plug in the video, and it should work. Again, it's a little bit of a risk. I got these at Walmart. They're about $10. It's a little bit of a risk, because if the video doesn't work, I might end up pulling the whole unit out. But I'm feeling pretty confident, and maybe a little cocky. But we'll see how it works when those go in, and I'll probably do another video after those are installed as well. Okay, so let's go take a look at the dash. Alright, so obviously the first thing you're going to do is make sure all of your personal items are taken out. Don't want any CDs in the unit itself. I had some items down here. Take them out. Make sure all your plugs are undone. Just make sure it's ready to take out. Nothing's in your way. It's a lot easier if your work area is clean. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at the instructions now. Full disclosure: I've never done this before. Not with something with this, with the dash trim. So you're going to learn along with me. If I make a mistake, you'll see, and maybe you'll know not to do it. But hopefully I don't make any mistakes. First step, obviously, disconnect the battery terminal. We've already done that. So it says unclip and remove the AC vent panel above the radio. I'm going to grab some of my dash tools, and I'm going to see if I can't figure out how that comes off. Maybe it'll be really easy. Yeah, that wasn't so hard. It just, I'm going to say right now, these things work very well. So that popped the cover off pretty easy. Looks like it's actually hardwired in there, so we'll probably have to let that dangle. I'm going to say that probably, now that we have it out, we'll just, I think we actually don't have to move that too much. That's exactly right. So now we're going to want to remove these two bolts. That's the next step. And then the step after that is going to be removing this bottom piece here. It's behind my shifter. It's got some buttons that I think would have been used on a higher trim level, maybe heated seats. And then your auxiliary in and your cigarette adapter. So we'll remove these bolts and then we'll unclip the lower panel here. I'm using a number 7 Mastercraft socket. Could probably get away with a wrench or pliers if you like. Pretty simple. So now we're going to remove just this lower panel here, and it looks very similar to the top panel, as in we're just going to need some of these tools to pry it out and the clips will release. Once again, these tools did the trick big time, so I really like those. I would highly recommend them. Now, there are 2 screws just under here. 7mm. That's what the number 7. That's why 7mm, of course. And we're gonna disconnect those. Pretty far back there, so I went and grabbed an extension. Went and grabbed my ratchet, so I can stick it in the bottom of my screwdriver and see if I can get a little more torque out of it. There's some wires going in here for the auxiliary in. Well, there's a button here. It doesn't really do anything. There's no buttons that do anything, but there's a wire that goes to them, and then the power outlet as well. We're going to need to remove those from this front plate because they're going to need to slide through this as we remove it, and then slide through the new one as we put it on. So. Alright, so I just learned something. I was trying to actually remove the unit out of the trim, but of course, just remove the plugs out of the back of the unit. It's probably something someone who's done this before would know, but again, as I said, I've never done this before, so it's a learning experience for me. So we just removed the cables off of the auxiliary outlet, and this again is just a placeholder. It doesn't. There's no buttons here because my trim level doesn't have it. And then this is the auxiliary, and that was just you just pull on these side things and it pops out. This one there was something you push in here while pulling out, and this one there was a thing on the side. It just popped out. So we'll set this aside and move on to the next step. We removed the bottom panel. We removed the screws. Now slide radio out and remove one 8mm bolt from the right side, securing the ground strap to the brackets. Unplug and remove the radio. Oh, actually I didn't even need these. A little bit of muscle on the bottom just popped it right out. There we are. Okay, I found it. I'm going to take a little video with my phone. So you can... So, that is what we're trying to remove right there. That's the ground cable. As I pull this out, I can tell quite obviously that there's something on the right side that's stopping it from being removed completely, and it is this bolt that we're looking at here, the one that the light is shining on right there. That's what we need to remove to get the ground cable off, and then we can remove the radio and disconnect it, as far as I am aware. There it is. My hands are covered in it, but the bolt is out. I'm gonna go give it a wipe down, but I think maybe I'd recommend spraying it, just the back end, like it's through this way, and spray this back end with just a single squirt, and as you pull it out, it'll make it looser, so you can do it by hand. Because if I could have done that by hand for most of it, it would have gone a lot faster. So that's a pro tip. So now we're supposed to remove all the wires and connectors on the radio. That wasn't too hard. So here we have our dash unit. Obviously, what's happening now is everything above this line here, this is the stereo. Everything down here is our climate controls, which obviously we want to keep. So I believe I'll double check in the instructions, but the next step is to remove this climate control panel from the dash, and then I think essentially we're pretty much done with everything in the top part, because we're going to have a new stereo and we're going to have a new front. So I don't think we're going to need to remove this from the back end, because this is just going to go sit. I'm just going to set this aside. I'm just going to set this aside because we're not going to need it again. So let's go about removing this part. And these are Torx screws, so there's 4 of them. So that's something you're going to need. Okay, so that is a number T20. I think that stands for Torx 20. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I'm using. Okay, so all I did was remove those 4 Torx screws here and here, and there's 2 on this side and 2 on this side over here. And now, from what I can tell, that boy just pops right out. There we go. So those are our climate controls, and yeah, it's a beauty. So I don't need, I'm going to set this aside because we want this back, but I don't need this anymore. See, I'm not, we're not reusing this stereo, and we got different trim, so we don't need any of this anymore. We're going to use a whole new set and a whole new kit. So I think this is where the fun part happens. We start using the wiring harness and wiring together some of the wires to make all the items work. Alright, we're back, and I actually didn't have to do it here. I went inside and I got all my wires put together and spliced, and how they're, knock on wood, supposed to be. There's a few extras in here that weren't part of the common wires that I was familiar with from the beginning. Like there's a green one here that's for the reverse light. And then there's a red one here for the parking brake, so you can play your DVD player, things like that. But for the most part, it was pretty straightforward, splicing the wires together. And now I'm ready to plug these into the Ford unit the forward wires, and then I'll plug the this bad boy into the stereo, and we'll see if our preliminary tests fire up. Let's power on the car and see what happens. Oh, that's a good sign. There we go. Let's scan. That's essentially the best I could hope for at this point. So everything is good. So I'm going to unplug it for now, and I got to finish putting the dash back together, and we will continue the installation. But so far, so good. All right. Well, after a lot of wrestling with it, I realized how to put this in. This is my replacement. This is the radio. I've got the trim around it, and it's bolted on. The only thing that holds it on are these two bolts, and one on the side on each. I'm a little disappointed because the you can probably see through here. It's not a perfect two-din fit, so it's a little bit wider. You can see on the sides here. I mean, everything still works, it's accessible, but it's just not as flush and clean as I'd like it. But I did wrestle with it for quite a bit, and I wasn't able to get it better than this, so it'll have to do. Now, I'm not sure. The trim package I got is a little surprising, in where these this peg here and this peg here are essentially holding the whole weight of the unit, and it leans up against the inside. So it's going to go in like this. Oops. It's essentially going to sit like that. And, well, it popped out, but we're going to have the trim around the other outside of it, and that's going to be bolted in, so I think that'll hold it in. But I mean, I guess it works. It just seems very... It just seems like it wouldn't work, but I mean, if it seemed like once you get it in there and you hold it in there, I mean, it's pretty solid in there. It's just trusting it just to these two tabs on a piece of plastic it's a little disheartening, but it is what it is. It's what I have, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to rehook everything into the back of the unit, and then test it one more time with it just resting in there. And I think after that, it'll be pretty easy to just pop everything back the way it's supposed to go. So we'll go from there. Earlier, I was showing you this is the buttons that don't do anything because I don't have a higher trim level. So I use them as an entry point down into my console area here, so I can have my auxiliary in, and I guess there's a USB going to the unit as well, which I think is for either additional storage for if you want to play music off a USB stick, or if you want to hook I think hook your phone up to it, or for whatever reason. Anyways, it's nice to have that accessible as well, so that's just going to hang down below, and I'll pull it in pretty tight so it's only hanging out about that much, but it'll still be, it's better than just, you know, out from below, I think. So now that I've had that, I'm going to put all the pieces back together, and I'm going to wrap this up, I think. Some black trim here, and these are black as well. So, and over here in the back, there's some black as well. So it's not too out of place. I mean, I wish it was a little better, but it'll do. All right. So thanks for watching and bearing with me. A few lessons learned on this. I would say make sure you get the radio adapter as well beforehand. It'd be really handy to have a socket set to do this. I think you could probably get away with not having one if you really tried, but it makes the world of difference if you have a socket set. I would say make sure before you unplug your battery, unlock your doors. I forgot to do that, so I couldn't unlock my power locks. Put your power seat back. Open your back tailgate if you want it open. I wanted it open for some airflow. And the biggest concern I have, and maybe I'll take a close up of this, is just the way that this actually doesn't fit perfectly in here. The bottom line's up okay. The top's a little sunken in, but this is sunken in behind the trim, and it's not too noticeable, but it's not great. So that's my biggest gripe thus far. It's pretty good though. I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out, all things considered. I did go budget on it. I did go as cheap as inexpensive as I could. So we'll see how long it lasts. I'll do a review of the device itself, and maybe another one in 6 months to see how well it's held up. It said it was an Android 4.4. I got an Android 4.2, so maybe they can send me a firmware update or something. But other than that, it works as described, I would say. Yeah, so thanks again for watching. If you have any questions, post them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. Yeah, thanks again, and take care.